Oh, my God. Look around and see the shining faces all around you right now. See that glow of divinity that's in the very depth of your being, projected onto the people around you. See the very beginning, before time existed in all of these sweet beings. Before the beginning of time and space, see that luminosity, that which was sung about, that which you're feeling in your soul right now. And cast a mighty blessing on all of these beings, even the ones we can't see around the world who are streaming in. And as we love to do here at Agape, look at the being sitting right next to you and realize that being is precious. That is a precious being, and there's no one on the planet exactly like that being. There's no one better than that being. There's no one superior to that being. There's no one inferior to that being. That being is precious in the mind of God. Look at them and say, oh my God. Oh my God. There is such beauty in you. There is such power in you. Confidence and poise is all in you. Intelligence runs all through you. Abundance is your divine nature. Power rolls through you. And we have come to change the world for the better by unleashing our real selves. Let's be this. Let's do this together. And so it is. Amen. Touch and agree. Vibrationally agree. With everything that you've just said to each other, everything that you have affirmed this morning, everything that you have heard in the sacred song this morning is all true. Begin at the beginning. It's the only place to start, has been the theme of this month, even though I haven't been here. But the song is so appropriate. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, infinite potential. In the beginning, no time, no space. Only an infinite potentiality bursting to express itself. And so we begin always at the beginning. In our prayer work, we begin always at the beginning. And when we meditate, we begin always at the beginning, meaning we never take conditions or circumstances into our mind as we're entering into spiritual practice. We begin at the beginning. In the beginning is infinite potential. In the beginning is God. In the beginning light. In the beginning love. In the beginning beauty. In the beginning abundance. In the beginning life itself. So every single day you are beginning at the beginning. You're not beginning in time. You're not beginning in space. You're not beginning in circumstance. You're not beginning in condition. You're not beginning in situations. You're beginning in God. Now as you begin in God and in infinite potential, you begin to release the blockages and the hindrances, the obstructions that are in your mind, so that you begin to realize it is never you, it is the cage that you've been brought up in. The cage of circumstance, the cage of beliefs, opinions, points of view. The cage of limited paradigms that individuals have ushered you into. It's not you, it's your cage. And so when you begin at the beginning, you're freeing yourself from the cage. Freeing yourself from the prisons and beginning to see that all of this power and all of this presence and all of this love, all that there is right here and right now. And you begin to move, as I was speaking a little bit about this morning in the morning meditation, you begin to move from a sense of a God being transcendent. That's a stage of development where you are transcending the personal mind. You're transcending your own opinions. You're transcending perceptions. Positionalities. You're transcending the ways of the world. You're transcending walking lockstep in societal confines and coming to an understanding that you did not come here to fit into society. You have come to transcend the societal bounds. That's a stage of development that leads you to eminence. Transcendence beyond to eminence. God right here, right now. And the only way that you can describe that to a limited degree is self-effulgency. And that is the light of God is your very life in being, and the knowledge and the wisdom that begins to be activated within you. That's God in you. That is God immanent, not transcendent. It is your very life and being. And so it always begs the question for individuals who are in this way of thinking, do you really know what you say you believe? Do you really know what you say you believe? Believe is an operational substitute for knowing. And oftentimes people stop at merely believing. They take a seminar on the weekend, they get high, they read a couple of books, and they say, I believe God is all there is. I believe I'm surrounded by a field of love and abundance. I believe. But do you really know what you say you believe? When there is spiritual practice and insight, that moment of insight that has been stabilized by practice becomes a deep and an abiding knowingness, that knowingness is the presence of God within you. There's an effulgence, there is a light, that light is God. It's no longer transcendent, it's immanent. It is you in that instant. Everything that you really know, not just believe in, everything you really know, that's God as omniscience. That's God as intelligence. That's God as love in and as you. So you're not blaspheming the Spirit by saying that God is immanent. You are only blaspheming the Spirit when you're trying to limit it to your limited perception, your limited point of view, previously held opinions, and then try to change the world according to your limited perception. Not you. Not here, not now. You're stepping into an awareness that this presence represents infinite potential. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, infinite potential. In the beginning, an unfolding of good, and that your potential, your future potential, your future possible is calling you right now. Say it, my future possible is calling me right now.
My future possible is calling me
My future possible is calling me right now.
My future possible is calling me
With God consciousness, all things are possible. So your ancestors and your descendants, those that have gone before and those that are yet to come, are calling you right now to embrace a future that is possible. And begin to feel into that, not based on conditions, circumstances, situation, people, places, and things. Let that go. But based on the spiritual idea of this moment of new beginning, there is a possible future that has your name on it. Your ancestors are giving you the charge. Your descendants are saying, you've got to go for it. You've got to go for it. Wednesday, as I was acclimating back from South Africa in a deep sleep, and when I began to wake up, there was a hand that I was holding. And it began to turn into multiple hands and individuals that I had hugged in my lifetime. And it began with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that I had the opportunity to shake his hand as a little boy, and Nelson Mandela, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Howard Thurman, and Coretta Scott King, and Rosa Parks, and there were so many individuals, these hands that I was holding, and I could get a sense that I was a part of a grand unfolding, and that this community is a part of a grand unfolding. Howard Thurman, grand unfold. Homer Johnson, Dr. Dan, Lisa Sprinkles, grand unfolding. Mary Tompkins, Johnny Coleman, grand unfolding. Carl Anderson, grand unfolding. These hands that I was holding, this grand unfolding of a narrative that they were a part of. Dick Gregory, grand unfolding I was being pulled into. I was already connected, but being pulled into, and the communities being pulled into something that is unfolding more real to us than the circumstances and the situations that we now see in this instant. And as individuals and as a community, we are a part of this possible future But all of these individuals that I've named and more have been articulating for millennia, decades. And that we are here standing at the precipice between time and space and the eternal, coming back to the beginning, that this narrative of good can begin to be articulated through us. There is a narrative that states, and you know this, that every being on this planet is precious. As we began this service, that everyone is a divine spiritual impulse held in the mind of God, that there's nothing wrong with us. This narrative that we had an opportunity to deliver while we were in South Africa, there's a revolution going on there in thought. Something happened with the young people. They found the internet, they found YouTube, they found live streaming, and they're leaving the evangelical teachings in droves. And so I was called over there by Moosey Cindy. They called me an apostle of new thought there. And to help foment this new revolution that's going on with a whole new narrative, not new to you who are in this teaching. Remembering, of course, you have to know what you say you believe. If you just believe it, it's not really that powerful. But if you know it through spiritual practice, you carry the frequency and the vibration of it. And even in your sacred silence, you radiate a frequency of transmutation that changes the world for the better based on what you know. And so these hands that I was holding were letting me see that we're being held by the hand of God. It let me see that we are the hands of God, that God does indeed have the whole world in his hands, but has the whole world in his hands through us and the narrative that we are holding. And so we're living in a state of time now where the narrative that we're holding must be the predominant narrative. What do I mean by that? Laws come and go, but narratives stay the same. Over the years, you've had slavery in our country. Laws changed, that was abolished, but the narrative stayed the same. You had individuals coming out, lynching people. The law changed, but the narrative stayed the same. You had individuals that relegated a segregation. Laws changed, but the narrative stayed the same. You had a police brutality. Laws changed, but narrative stayed the same. There's an undergirding narrative of other being inferior. Black, Mexican, gay, whatever the case may be, the other is always inferior. And so though we can change the laws and have legalistic maneuvering, unless the underlying narrative is shifted, there's no real change, you see. You are the individuals that are now rising up with the real narrative about the preciousness of every being. You're rising up in the real narrative that God has no second and third and fourth children, that the presence of God does not have favorites or chosen people. And so even though our sick brothers and sisters may be rising up with supremacist ideas, an old narrative that was never healed, even though laws were changed, this is our moment. This is our time in history where that which has been hidden, that which has been ducking and dodging because it wasn't cool, now emboldened by individuals in high places that carry that same narrative, all of that now rises up so that we can shoot it down with the dynamic, feeling tone of love and harmony, embrace our sick, ignorant brothers and sisters, rise them to another level of consciousness. There is a new narrative that is not new, it is old as time itself. That each being is the image and likeness of God. There is no superiority, inferiority, or even equal. We are precious in the sight of God. Precious, each individual. And so you're here today to come back to the beginning, the only place to start in the beginning, infinite potential, the divine spiritual idea, God itself. Spiritual practice allows you to go from mere transcendence, which is the beginning, to an eminence. God is where I am. God is everywhere, in, through, and as everything, never absorbed by its creation, always bigger than its creation, and always unfolding to reveal more and more and more of that creative urge. And our ancestors and descendants are pulling us to a possible future that has to be seen, articulated, and become the narrative of our conversation. Any conversation that is less than that does not need to be had. And with the awareness that laws matter, yes, but the underlying narrative must come forward at this instant. This is why individuals around the world look to you guys at Agape. They see you on the live stream. They see all manner of people. As I was talking to Sterling Brown on Friday night, and he was talking about the fact that the first time he walked into Agape, he was so happy that everybody was themselves. He'd never seen such freedom. People were dressing the way they wanted to do, walking the way, talking. It was not, everybody wasn't wearing the same suit with the same Bible. You know, they were like this. He said there was so much freedom, and he knew he was at home. People around the world are looking at you as an example of the possibility of a narrative that everyone is included. Everyone is included. And so how do we go about it? And so no longer settling for simply believing this stuff, but having a deep and abiding spiritual practice that allows us to have insight so that we know it. And after a while, when you know something, you don't even have to talk about it that much. It's just who you are. You just love. You just share. You just give. You just forgive. You're just happy. You just enjoy. Your vibration is that way. There's no contentiousness in your soul. Therefore, when individuals rise up, and begin to bemoan their fate. Whenever something is ready to die, it makes a loud noise. So this narrative that's kind of been around for a while about racial superiority and this type of thing is making a loud noise because it knows it's dying. You see that it's not our time to stand up and protest hate. It is our time to stand in love and create such a dynamic peace. I'm not talking about getting rid of righteous indignation. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about you don't want to come into conflict with someone that is sick because you're not going to change them. You stand every time there is a rally for hate. You rise up with a rally for peace, not at the same time. That's the conflict. That's how they recruit. They want conflict so they can recruit. You stand up in another day with tremendous diversity and inclusivity. With a dynamic loving kindness and appreciation, and show the world what it looks like to be in love with God. To be in love with peace, to be in love with joy, to be in love with generosity, to be in love with harmony. You show up that way. So there's a narrative. And the narrative is found in every sacred path about the image and likeness of God being placed within us and that we are it. Now it's time to mature and not merely believe this stuff. It's time to mature, not just merely be a part of a social club that believes it or a book club that believes it. It's time to rise up with a deeper readiness in our soul and feel all of those hands, all of those individuals that are in that legacy of announcing the possible future for all of us. And unless that happens, humanity is on the verge of a great extinction based on the ego and based on the masculine, testosterone-driven win-lose paradigm. And this is why the whole dynamic of the feminine energy is rising up, because the feminine energy carries win-win. It doesn't carry win-lose. It carries win-win. And so men and women are asked to embrace this narrative of a rising up of the feminine energy for a win-win, so we don't have to listen to the nonsense of presidents arguing with other presidents about nuclear arms and might makes right. It is so old. It is so testosterone driven. It is so immature. Fortunately, you exist. One with God is a majority. I'm talking about God consciousness, not just believing. One with God is a majority. You give me 30 people that can actually practice keeping their mouth shut unless they're speaking the capital T truth, you will have an explosion of good that is beyond what we can even imagine. A love ethic taking over our existence, standing in that awareness, fearless in our loving and in our giving and in our creativity and our joy and our generosity. You are the seeds for that. You would not be in the teaching. It talks to you about the presence of God being in your very heart and soul, closer to you than your breathing, nearer than your hands and feet, closer than your neck vein. You would not be in a teaching that says that there's no original sin, that there's only an original blessing, that you're not born with any sense of negativity already there. No, the negativity that we see in people, that's the cages they've been brought up in. And you are now setting people free with just your vibration. Your vibration. And then you're called into action according to your gift. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has a gifted area. Everybody's got something to say in their gifted area. You're called into that kind of action. That kind of action. That kind of action. As we stood there and listened to one of the, I've been there before, but it was still so moving. And one of the political prisoners that was showing us around the Robben Island prison and the degradation that had happened there, of course, and standing in Nelson Mandela's cell and the wonderful literature that was there that talked about the fact that whenever the new people would come into prison after the Soweto uprising, they were thrown into Robben Island and they were seeking to convince, Nelson Mandela to overthrow the guards so they could get out of there. They're out on of course, on an island. There's nowhere to get to. And he would say, no, go read. People that smuggled books in and go read. He said, what are you talking about, Nelson? Go read. He said, go read. So when we take over the country, we can be the kind of people that can run the nation. Read, get your stuff together. And that was the movement. And every time somebody would come in, they'd get them into the writings that people were sneaking into the prison and read and embody this stuff. He said, read, change yourself so that when we take over, we'll be the right people. He didn't say if. When this happens. Not just believing, but embodying. So you look at yourselves at this moment. Things that you want in life. Are you really believing in it, or are you doing the inner work that's allowing you to say, when I step into a greater power within myself, when the abundance flows, when I'm healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, are you doing the inner work necessary? Or are you staying merely at the level of being a believer and being a part of a social club of believers and a book club of believers? It's a starting point. But you're here to be practitioners. I'm not talking about mere licensed practitioners. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about practicing. So hear it again. In the beginning is the only place to start. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, infinite potential. In the beginning, a perfect spiritual idea that never had a beginning and will never end. It's always unfolding. And wherever you are in this moment of your life can be a new beginning if you could not look at your life through a condition or the cage that you have been locked in, but look and feel and sense and pray from infinite potential. Only place to start. Right there. You'll transcend your personal mind, and there'll be an eminence. You'll start to have insight. Oh, I is God. God's not a man in the sky. It's a presence that knows itself and it wants to know itself as you. And then you feel the ancestors' call. You feel the descendants' call. And you begin to describe a possible future. And you begin to create a narrative of what's possible in the life of humanity, in the life of yourself. That narrative will be backed by a knowing, not a mere belief, but a knowing. You will know it. And you don't have to say a word. You walk into a room and, oh my God, God's walked in. The presence has walked in. Love has walked in the door. Peace has walked into the door. Generosity, creativity has walked in the door through you. And you too will start to see all the beautiful hands that you have held. People that have shaped your life for the positive, for the affirmative. And you will understand they're still holding your hand. And you'll understand that the presence of God is holding the whole world through you. And you'll give up all sense of victimhood and stand with a new narrative. The presence of God is everywhere. All shades, all shapes, all sizes, sexual orientations, genders. That superb energy will rise up. And what is now known as a feminine energy will rise up and embrace. Like a mother brooding over all creation and the children. Win-win for everyone. It's possible. That's our possible future. Can you see it with me? That's our future that's possible. Can you see it? It's possible. It's in the field of infinite potential, but someone has to vibrate with it. You see? That's all I got. Today. That's all I got today. That's all I got today. This instant. It's all. You're great. You're magnificent. You're beautiful. People all over the world are looking at you. They say, don't take this place for granted. They wish they could be here. Please come with me upstairs right now. I'm holding the hands of Homer Johnson, who would say, just come upstairs. Don't come downstairs and look over the balcony. Don't look at the conditions as your beginning state of spiritual practice. Don't do it. And we're holding the hands of Dr. Homer Johnson. I'm holding the hands of Dr. Howard Thurman, who said, I practice the teachings of Jesus. I may not call myself a Christian that much anymore, but I'm practicing the teachings of Jesus. We're holding the hands of Howard Thurman, who shuffled off a cage. Holding the hands of His Holiness Dalai Lama that says, love is my religion. Dr. King said, peace does not roll in on the wheels of an inevitability, but on the tireless backs of individuals who are willing to hold hands with a higher vision. We're holding those hands. Rosa Parks, who sat down to rise up. We're holding hands and being held by our ancestors and descendants right now. Come with me as we enter into the field of gratitude and thanksgiving. Come with me as we enter into the field of pure appreciation for life. For life, for our individual life. And everything that has occurred that allows us to be where we are right now. As a new beginning, come with me. We give thanks in this moment. And from this dynamic of thanksgiving and pure appreciation, there is a higher vision that we're able to see. The inner windows of our perception get so clean that God is no longer distant man, but it's closer than our hand. We begin to see that it's here now, recognizing the presence everywhere and feeling so connected with it. We're bold enough to say, I am. I am, I am, I am what thou art, and thou art what I am. No distance whatsoever. The word is spoken. That our life is now heaven bent on being the vibrational places through which more good and more peace and more joy and more harmony can reveal itself. As I say, come, we're talking to ourselves, come up a little higher. The word is spoken for us right now. The body temple is now becoming strong enough to hold more energy. Energy is infinite. But can your celestial battery hold all of that energy? Are you primed with a vision big enough for it? For the entire world. The word is spoken that the body temples are now becoming equipped, strong, vital. That every organ, action, and function of the being is now equipped to hold more light. That's called health and harmony and wholeness, wellness and well-being. Are you willing to be whole today? Yes. Are you willing to have a narrative about your wholeness? Yes. A narrative about your strength, yes. Your potential. Yes. Every organ and action function is now hearing what you're saying. Don't lie to your body. It's listening to you. If you're telling it about its negativity, it's going to believe you and it's going to outpicture it. Mental body is clear. The emotional body is pure. We embrace the fundamental order of the universe, and we invite it to be the fundamental order of the body of all of our affairs right now. Let the order of the universe be the order of my life. That you cannot tell the difference between the elegance of the cosmos and the elegance of our life. One and the same, the inner and the outer, the same. Oh, I feel it. That's what we're about here. We have to feel it. That's what's happening. We're feeling it. That's what's going on. We're feeling it. As I get ready to embrace these individuals on our prayer list, I invite Ricky Beebe to help you feel it.
Don't you know that I am holding you? There I am inside each breath you take. And my arms are everywhere you are. I will carry you. I will stand this test of time for you. Feel me loving you. I am the rock. I am your place of salvation. I am your strength. I am the hand that you hold on to.
Yes.
I am the voice that is always saying,
yes,
I will give you rest. I will give you rest.
Will you take the hand of the being next to you, please? Put a smile on your face that you get to fellowship. You get to pray for folks. You get to be prayed for.